Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm pleased to rise on C12, the ugly stepchild of the failed Liberal omnibus, C2. Now, this, of course, is about border security, and I'm looking through the departmental plan that was actually signed by the Minister of Public Safety that covers the CBSA, and it talks about human trafficking, and that's what I'm going to be talking mostly about today. Now, it's mentioned 5 times combating human trafficking in the departmental plans. Now, for those opposite, the departmental plans are the plans submitted by the government to justify the spending for the money they ask for. It lays out the priorities for this government for the following year. It's not a legal document, but it is a document that supports the request for spending. Now, as mentioned 5 times, it's mentioned that they're going to combat human trafficking. Page 7, page 14, page 25, it mentions twice. We have an issue on human trafficking in Alberta, in Edmonton, across the country, in the construction world. We have illegal laborers being brought in and being hired to work on federally funded government projects. Now, a year ago, I presented evidence to the Treasury Board, the head of the Treasury Board, about this practice. I told them I would not make it political, I would not publicize it, but I provided the information for them to act on this. And a year later, nothing has happened. Just last week, we had CBSA raid the LRT site, construction site in Edmonton, partially funded by the federal government, and illegal workers were had been detained and taken off. Other projects, and the government has done nothing. The reason I bring this up, I refer back to the failed Liberal former Minister for Infrastructure and the Environment, Catherine McKenna, who basically said, if you lied loudly enough in the House of Commons, people will totally believe it. And that's my worry about this departmental plan. If they repeat it enough that they're going to fight human trafficking, people will totally believe it. But the evidence is that they're not. Again, I delivered documents to this government about illegal laborers, human trafficking on federally government-funded projects, offered to work with them, nothing was done. Fast forward to a year, just last week, we decided enough's enough. We tabled a motion in the Operations Committee to study this issue. And guess what happened? The Liberals shut it down, blocked the study into human trafficking being used on government-funded labor sites. Now, I want to thank my good friend Rob, who's with the Alberta Building Trades, for championing this issue and bringing it to light. They have fought against this for years because it's a two-headed sword, or double-sided problem. We have people being abused, human trafficking, and on the other side, we have Canadians, journeymen, ticketed trained, who cannot get work on government-funded projects because they're being undercut by workers being trafficked, brought into Canada illegally, and employed illegally on these projects. Now, Rob and the Alberta Building Trades and other trade unions have done yeoman's work. I actually attended a site with them on the Henday, the ring road around Edmonton. We interviewed workers, and miraculously, every single worker we spoke to was a subcontractor. Subcontracted for the main contract, who won the bid from the government, but every single worker, Latin American, was a subcontractor. They had no employees of their own, but miraculously, every single one of them just happened to have their own company working independently. Oh, and of course, working for cash under the table. Now, what's happening is that legitimate companies cannot win bids on these government projects. Union companies are getting outbid because these other construction companies will bid, then subcontract out the entire job to the shadowy other construction companies who then fill the entire job with illegal laborers, paying cash, sometimes $10 an hour. These workers have no protection. They're not eligible for workers' comp because they're being paid under the table. They're not eligible for unemployment insurance because they're not paying into the system. And legitimate companies and legitimate tradespeople are getting shut out. It's getting to a point, as I say, where legitimate companies don't even bother bidding on government projects anymore. Here's some of the things that are happening. General contractors and major for government-funded infrastructure projects, they use multiple subcontractors to conceal that many of the workers are being paid cash under the table. Carpenters, laborers, cement masons, others, undocumented workers. And these are either brought in from Facebook sites. They'll come in as visitor visas, family visas, overstayed student visa, overstayed tourist visas, expired TFWs, or actually being on EI and working on the side. And again, there's no protection. If anyone's ever worked in construction, and I did that as a youth, building houses, it is dangerous work. Injuries happen. And one thing I have to say about the union movement across Canada for trades, they, and especially in the oil sands, they put safety first. That is not happening in these work sites. There's workers without lift or without fall netting, without helmets, without proper PPE. These companies are also faking, and I've provided the documented evidence to the Treasury Board, fake journeyman papers, fake workers' comp papers for these workers. What's happening, this is from the illegal workers' point of view, they're told by the employer they don't need safety tickets. Counterfeit tickets are provided both for journeyman, boilermaker tickets, etc. They're paid in cash, so no workers' comp, no CPP deductions, no EI. If injured on the job, they are fired and sent home. We had a documented case, person fell, broke his leg, and was basically told, well, get on the plane and fly back to Colombia. That is what is happening on federally funded job sites in Alberta, in BC, and across the country. They don't do drug and alcohol testing. There's no avenue for these workers to report workplace safety issues. And if they complain, they're threatened with deportation. I want to read from a Facebook post, and it was posted in Spanish, but I've had it translated. Edmonton area cash-only projects. 5 concrete finishers, 6 laborers. Must have WMS, H2S certificates. If you don't have them, we'll provide them for you. Cash, and this is for a federally funded project. I'm going to read a story about a gentleman. He fell. Goes, I don't remember falling. I lost my memory for 24 hours. I woke up in the hospital. My helmet had saved me. It had broken in half, but I got a cut and a bump. He fell 25 feet because he didn't have a safety harness. Broke his shoulder, couldn't move for 2 months. Who visited him at the hospital? The safety officer from this fake company who came in and threatened him. If he reported it to WCB, he would be fired and deported. He said it was terrifying. When he got back, he was told, after 2 months, here's your last check, get out. And this is happening every day on federally funded projects. The LRT in Edmonton, the Henday. I had the Library of Parliament put together, that's billions of dollars. And these are jobs that are taken away from Canadians, from legal Canadians. So it's, again, two-sided. We have Canadians who cannot get work, and we have the government funding illegal workers. And again, we asked this government if we could investigate this in the Operations Committee, and the Liberals blocked it. A year ago, we gave this documented information to the Treasury Board with an offer. We will work with you. We won't make it political. We won't make it a partisan issue. We'll work with you to fix it. And this government chose to side with human traffickers instead of Canadians. If the government was serious about C-12, helping Canadians, helping the border, they would act on this issue now.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, throughout the debates and discussions on C12, we have heard a lot of criticisms towards Bill C2. And the question that I have for my friend across the way is, does the Conservatives have any sort of amendments that they would like to see to actually C12? Are there aspects specific to C12 in which they would like to see amended? And if so, would the Conservatives be prepared to share some of those thoughts, specific amendments?
That's a good question. Honourable Member for Edmonton West.
First of all, I'm disappointed in my colleague across the way. I realize we joust back and forth, a lot of it good-natured, but this is a serious issue. Human trafficking is happening on government-funded projects. I want a commitment from this government that if we bring it up again in the Operations Committee to put an end to it, he will not have his colleagues shut down that study. If we were to offer an amendment on this, it would ask the government to amend C12 to address this flagrant oversight that they allow and encourage human trafficking on government-funded infrastructure projects.
The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Lamatapédia. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to commend my colleague on his speech. Madam Speaker, my colleague has explained something quite far-fetched that we are living through in this House. Beyond C12, we have a government adding an extra day to the order paper to talk about C12, their act. But there are no additional speakers from the Liberal Party. So what's the deal with that? Are they worried about speaking to the bill? Are they worried about their members of Parliament flubbing it? The whole debate is being run by the opposition. We're filling time slots that the government created. And yes, we saw the minister say that he was so worried about the trade war, he had a great big press conference. They're more than willing to speak to the press, but here in the House, we are seeing a government that lacks vision and doesn't know what it wants. I wonder if my colleague could explain this.
I'd like to thank my colleague for the question. I think we should be thankful there's no Liberal MPs standing up giving speeches. I don't want to hear the member from Winnipeg North any more than you do. But it is an ongoing issue. It is an ongoing issue we have in this House. This government, you have to pass this legislation. It's urgent. Yes, for 10 years we've sat and done nothing, but damn it, we better get this done today. And this is just another example. It's not a serious government. They don't take border security serious. The questions that they're posing to us today show they don't take it seriously. This is just more proof. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Scarborough-Woburn.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. This morning I was watching the news and one of the reporters, well, a bunch of reporters were asking Conservatives as they were coming into the House what they thought about the Conservative leader's comments on the RCMP. Obviously, if we're going to build strong borders, we need to make sure we have good relationships with our top officials in law enforcement. So my question is to the member here. Maybe they were busy this morning. They couldn't stop because they had to get into the House. But I would like to ask the member, does he believe it's important for us to have a strong relationship with the RCMP, a respectful relationship, and does he agree with the leader's comments?
The Honourable Member for Edmonton West.
Yeah. I won't say thank the member for that question because it's a ridiculous question. This is a government whose Prime Minister called every single member of the RCMP racist by calling him systemically racist. I wonder if he'd like to ask that same question to his colleague from Victoria who stated we should defund the police in June 2020, or the member from London West who attended a defund the police rally. It's just pure hypocrisy from the other side, as always.
Honourable Member for Carleton Trail Eagle Creek.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I do thank my honourable colleague for his speech. I know that he digs into numbers and often looks at reports, and I appreciate the nature of his speech addressing human trafficking. And as he stated, this came before committee, and I'm wondering if he'd like to comment further on what happened in committee and why we aren't actually digging into that very important issue.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton West in 15 seconds.
Thanks. The reason we're at this point is because we presented this in committee and the Liberals voted it down. I don't know why they're taking the side of illegal or corrupt corporations and human trafficking instead of the victims and instead of taking the side of workers in Canada.